if Eric Swalwell wasn't guilty, he wouldn't have dropped out of the race and he wouldn't have resigned from Congress. Innocent people don't act guilty.
Yeah, and for anyone saying that people didn't back him, this is how it's supposed to work. In a normal functioning democracy, when someone gets caught up in a scandal like this, people should be calling on them to resign and they should step down with what little grace they have left and go deal with the mess they made in their personal lives.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Concepts of a Pod. We're so glad that you're here to watch. First, I wanted to start this off real quick with an apology. This episode, we were supposed to have a political candidate on that we were going to interview, but as a lot of you know, campaigns are crazy and things happen, and we had to postpone this interview. We are hoping that we'll get to do it in the future, but we've got a lot of crazy things to talk about, so don't worry. This is going to be a good full episode.
Yeah, and when life gives you lemons on the campaign trail, you gotta make, I hate to say in this case, some very sour lemonade, because I was
gonna say, or like a margarita, I don't know, take away the pain. So
I was gonna say at this point, although I feel like those are probably what led to some of the problems we're about to talk about in the first place, because we should just dive right in with the mess that, as of last week, frontrunner for governor of California, now former Congressman Eric Swalwell's made of himself. And Shayna, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I think we saw the fastest downfall of a very promising political candidate in, I guess, the history of the United States. And I guess I want to start this off with, if Eric Swalwell wasn't guilty, he wouldn't have dropped out of the race and he wouldn't have resigned from Congress. Innocent people don't act guilty.
Yeah, and for anyone saying that people didn't back him or nobody was loyal or whatever, this is how it's supposed to work. And I saw this post somewhere, and I can't remember who posted it, and I'm not going to steal it, but unfortunately can't give the credit they deserve, that in a normal functioning democracy, when someone gets caught up in a scandal like this, especially with accusations of criminal sexual misconduct, which is being investigated across multiple jurisdictions now, people should be calling on them to resign, and they should step down with what little grace they have left and go deal with the mess they made in their personal lives. And
Correct.
his statement made me sick, but at least he acknowledged that the people of the district didn't deserve this. And shout out to his staffers who, when
his
asked,
staffers had an awesome reply to some reporters about asking if the reporters could get in contact with the congressman.
And they said they weren't connecting him and he didn't have anyone working for him, rightfully so, or something like that. I'll put the exact.
They were like, there's no one working for the former congressman anymore, rightfully so, and we serve the people of the 14th congressional district. I was like, that's awesome. Those are some good trained political staffers. But
those are some people who are looking out for their next steps and know that they are going to have a job in politics long after he's a disgrace. And
also standing on business and doing what's right.
Anyone would be lucky to have them. And honestly, if they want to come help us with comms, our DMs are open.
Yes, please. We would absolutely love help with that. And on the topic of doing what's right, on Saturday, we released a statement calling on Eric Swalwell to drop out and resign from Congress, and that we full-fledged support the victims of anything that he's done to anybody, the sexual harassment, sexual assault. And that statement was not put out on behalf of our supporters. We signed it with our names because we wanted to let everyone know that as staffers and as individual politicos, that this was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what needed to be done and what should be done. Just like you said before, when information like this comes out about someone, the right thing to do and the thing you should do is say they should drop out and no longer be a part of this.
Yeah. And I think this is one of those rare occasions where we did take a very firm stand on something without running a focus group or getting supporter input first. And we don't take that lightly. And after a bit of discussion internally, what we decided to do was to sign our first names on it to show that this is not a statement on behalf of the focus group. It is a statement on behalf of our leadership, showing that these are our values, this is where we stand, and whether somebody's on the Democratic side or the Republican side, that if you're caught up in this, we don't want to hear from you. And
Yeah.
it's as simple
And
as that.
me, Jordan, and Simone, all three of us as political or campaign staffers, we all understand exactly what it's like when things like this happen on campaigns, whether it's in a campaign adjacent to you or it's on your own campaign. And I think I can unfortunately say that all three of us have been through campaigns who have gone through scandals, and let it be known that we don't, agree with what's going on or what have you. But I know that all three of us, and I know any other Politico out there watching this, knows exactly what that feels like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I can only speak from secondhand experience of the stories I've been told, and that's my male privilege. But I think all of us had heard stories, and as with a lot of people who were talking about the Swalwell story in the weeks leading up to it coming out fully in the press, like this was a little bit well known among the staffer class in DC, and quite frankly, a lot of people were keeping it under the rug for access. And that's something we need to talk about too, the culture in the campaign world, and especially on the Hill, of kind of covering for bad behavior, especially among men in these positions of power, because it really is, it's disturbing to say the least. And I will say, from what I understand, Eric Swalwell might not be the only one. I know he's.
There's no way that he's the only one. I can tell you that, and there's two sides of the coin here of, well, like, just about everyone who's worked in politics knows that Eric Swalwell was kind of a sleazebag. We've all heard stories, or we know people who may have formerly worked for him that this happened to them. And some people may be upset and say, well, why didn't you speak out? Why didn't you say anything? First of all, this is a girl code thing. If someone tells me something in confidence, no matter what it is, and they tell me not to share it, I'm not going to do that because it's not my place. Whether they're my friend or not my place. That is for them to do. That is their own story. I'm not going to meddle with their life in that way. Part two to that is a lot of women don't speak up because there's people, other people, mostly men, who want to keep them quiet so that, again, they can get that access and those behind the scenes things and pull strings the way that they want. On average, it takes women multiple years to come out and say something if something happened to them. That's the average, is years.
Sad.
Yeah, it's really sad. But to go back a second, there's absolutely no way that Eric Swalwell is the only one. We know that Tony Gonzalez. There was another, I think, Republican congressional member in Florida who's up for a possible expulsion vote, also for
Oh, yeah.
sexual misconduct. The last few months, the whole beginning part of this year has been riddled with lots of sexual assault and misconduct allegations from politicos and from DC. And I think a lot of people may think, oh, well, now, why is everybody getting sexually assaulted? That's not how that works.
It's always been happening.
It's always been happening, but people feel more comfortable to speak up about it, or, they don't want an alleged rapist to become the governor of California,
Mhm.
or continue to, be a congressperson. And it's your choice of when you want to speak up. And there's so many people who make it really, really hard to do that.
Oh, yeah, and I absolutely applaud the people who have the bravery to come forward and share their truth, because they're getting attacked, being told they're a Republican op, an op from the other primary candidates, what have you, and just, I mean, on top of the trauma that you're reliving to just tell that story, just to make sure that we don't end up nominating someone who did these things for governor of California, and you're attacked just for speaking your truth. I couldn't even
These
imagine.
these people that speak up about this, they're not doing it for personal gain.
No.
There is absolutely nothing that most people gain from speaking up if they have been sexually assaulted, whether it's by a friend, family member, at work, by a stranger. There's almost nothing for survivors and victims to gain when they speak up about it, because that's the culture has
Yeah.
been created.
Not only, first of all, there's no money in it. Like, I hate to say the tabloids of the world are going to profit off these stories, but not the victims. And then beyond that, you lose the trust of all of not only the people who are in power, who are these horrible people, which, I mean, who cares if they trust you anyway, but also the people who kind of fear those powerful people. And I think a good example is looking back to Harvey Weinstein and the Me Too scandal, and it was such an interesting dynamic when those dominoes fell, because Harvey Weinstein, nobody liked him in Hollywood. I mean, growing up, my family was in the business, and I remember long before anyone knew anything about his sexual misconduct and his sexual assaults, it was just joked about in my family how annoying and awful he was as a person to deal with. And nobody liked him, but everybody feared him because he had so much power in the business. And part of the reason that he fell so hard was that everyone was just waiting for the chance to take him down. And I think we're entering one of those moments now in politics where I think the TMZification of DC is fascinating and such a telling element of the culture shift with DC's Hollywood conversion that Trump started over a decade ago now coming to fruition. That you've got TMZ doing the jobs of reporters in Congress. You've got personal scandals in ways that they're breaking like they haven't previously. I mean, I gotta say, I kind of am enjoying the TMZ style videos of members of Congress. I mean, I don't know if you saw that clip of Swalwell in the hotel bed with the alleged sex worker. Gonna put it up. Trigger warning. Close your eyes if you don't want to see it, but tell me who you think is next to him in that video. Can you tell?
There's been a lot of talks that it's allegedly, want to make that very clear that we're saying this alleged here, Ruben Gallego from Arizona. We know that Swalwell and Gallego were really good friends. Here's the thing, again, it's all alleged. There are some people who they don't know that their best friend was doing awful things. And Gallego's he's all of a sudden, not talking about Swalwell, saying that, I'm not friends with him anymore. There's also the other half of, if you're that close and like there's pictures of them in Qatar on the beach, shirtless,
Oh,
riding horses.
come on.
They were really good friends. Ruben Gallego, also, let's not forget that a month after Trump won, he left his wife, who was pregnant, for his mistress. So it doesn't sound like he's the greatest guy either. But again, this is
Yeah.
alleged. Ruben Gallego, there's been lots of grumblings over time, too, about Gallego and his conduct with staff members and things like that. It hasn't been as long as Swalwell because he hasn't been there quite as long. But there's been a lot of rumblings about him. And I have no doubts there's lots of other rumblings about other people, but they'll come out when they come out, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. And I mean, don't get on Martin Shkreli's bad side. Not that I like Martin Shkreli, but the Martin Shkreli Ro Khanna beef is interesting.
Put the tweet up so people can
I will.
see. Supposedly, Martin Shkreli filmed the clip of Eric Swalwell in that hotel room, and
What the hell were the three of them doing, or the two of them allegedly third doing in a hotel room together? Like, what were these guys doing with Martin Shkreli? Did they want to hear the Wu-Tang album that badly?
baby, I don't know. I have no interest in knowing what any of their special interests are. We'll put it that way.
Oh, God.
But Martin Shkreli, when he was like, "If you fuck with me, I'm gonna fuck with you." The TMZification of things. But on the other side of Twitter, there's a lot of people who have been making this whole situation about themselves when they were not the
Mm-hmm.
ones involved in the situation. And I just want to put this out there for everybody because I think it's really important that this is said. People who make comments like that make it really hard for people like me to want to come forward and share my story about things that have happened to me. Makes it real hard to do and makes people not want to speak up, specifically women, and specifically women in male dominated industries like politics.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. And I mean, full transparency, when we wrote our statement, or more accurately, when Shayna and Simone wrote our statement, I just respected and listened to everything that they had to say about all of this, because I have no idea what any of it is like, and I
If
have
only the politicos on Twitter also did that. And
the
ugh.
men on Twitter, and I mean, this is going to go, if you're good to zoom out a little bit beyond just this one micro example of perhaps the worst of misogyny in the political adjacent and specifically pundit space, is that it seems like for all the accountability that's happening of people who are in power right now, and especially those who are on the center or seen as establishment or in any way take money from either APAC, which may be a problem, or any Jewish person who donated to APAC, which we should have a larger conversation about that. But it seems like certain people are somehow above reproach and above criticism for some pretty egregious, not only misogynistic, but bigoted behavior. And I hate to do this, but I'm going to call out some pod bros here, because I will just say that I know that both Swalwell and Gallego have been fixtures in the crooked media universe and responsible for some of their more viral clips at times. So,
Hey, you can be great at your job and be a shitty person. You can also be shitty at your job and be a shitty person and still
yeah.
go viral.
Oh, yeah, no, but it just has seemed like, and I also am mad at the Pod Bros for another reason this week that I'm sure you've seen going around Twitter, that clip where they had Hasan Piker back to address the controversy around everything he's said and the way it may or may not be impacting candidates. And the clip that went viral was that he was asked by Favreau if he really meant it when he said that Hamas is 1,000 times better than Israel, which I can't believe I just had to say those words out loud to quote them, because as many war crimes as Israel commits, they're committing those war crimes because they're fighting a terrorist organization that stated intent is genocide, and that terrorist organization is Hamas. And Hasan says that you should watch the whole interview, so I did today, and actually he kind of lost me 10 minutes after when his context that he thought was supposed to be better, that Favreau was totally good letting him continue on, was to say that the, as he called it, the Al-Aqsa flood, which is the Palestinian term for October 7th, was equivalent to the Nat Turner slave rebellion. I don't know what to do with that.
I think the silence is the answer to that. And this is also not to say that, like, it is not good that Israel's committing war crimes.
No,
It's also
no.
not good that Hamas is a terrorist organization, but it's really wild to say that a terrorist organization is better than the only functioning democracy in the Middle East.
I wouldn't call it functioning anymore, but then again,
Semi-functioning?
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
But
functioning about as well as ours, which I think is really the point here, because the solution to American democracy is vote them out, impeach, do what we can through the democratic process. But I guess the left's proposed solution to Israel is what would amount to, I hate to say, a second Holocaust.
yeah, it's a couple weeks ago, we put out an episode talking about Israel, Palestine, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia, and we still stand by everything we said in that video. We thought very carefully about all of it. I encourage everybody to go watch it. It's getting real hard sometimes to defend certain points that people have about Hamas or Palestine, or, you shouldn't have to have a ton of explanation as to why you support this. And Hasan Piker has been a leading voice on the Free Palestine movement. And Jordan, I think you and I both agree with the statement Free Palestine from Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it really hard when leading voices like Piker are out there saying, I think Hamas is better than Israel, and I think Hamas is better than the United States government. Makes it
Yeah.
real hard to continue to support the face of that movement when the people who are part of the movement or the people that are being impacted by that movement guarantee you they don't agree with that. I guarantee you go ask most Palestinians how they feel about Hamas, they're going to say, "What the fuck? Like what the hell is this guy
By the
talking
way,
about?"
only if they know they won't be persecuted for what they're saying, because a lot of them will
Yes.
say it out of fear because they don't have the freedom to say they don't like Hamas within Palestine. And that's another problem in its entirety. But I also want to talk about the double standards when it comes to evaluating these two sides of this coin of war, and also the way that some men, Hasan, have just doubled down on the most extreme instead of taking the time to evaluate the nuance. And I mean, Shayna, you and I took years before we were ready to speak publicly about our feelings on these topics because we wanted to make damn sure that we evaluated every angle and we spoke not only for the people in our focus group, but for ourselves and for our families and as Jews for our people in a way that felt true to who we were. And we wrestle, we criticize, we struggle with some of what Israel does. And meanwhile, you've got on the other side guys like Hasan who just like to double down on the most extreme. And then you've got John Favreau who just fully lets him do it and
Enables it.
oh yeah, he's gleefully sitting back, and if you watch the interview, every time he says something super extreme, Favreau will be like, "Well, I don't know quite about that. I mean, I see what you're saying, but what about the concern about anti-Semitism?" As if it's not that the anti-Semitism is the problem on its own, but that the anti-Semitism is the problem because it's making it harder for the pro-Palestine movement, which is true, but the fact that that's all Favreau cares about, he doesn't care about calling out his guest for the pretty blatant anti-Semitism that's coming out of his mouth. And I mean, you had another episode of Pod Save America this week where they had Ilhan Omar on, and she was all giddy about hanging out with Marjorie Taylor Greene and accepting her awakening. And you don't think the thing they have in common is blaming Israel for everything?
I hope people start to connect the dots soon. I get that not everyone is a politico. Not everyone's going to dig deep into these things, but there's lots of resources out there like us who are here to try and help connect the dots for you and explain things in an easier to understand way. And right now it's really popular just to go from one extreme to another. If you've ever seen one of my TikToks, sorry I ended up on your page, just kidding. But someone asked a question that was a pretty deep policy question about, well, why are Democrats trying to get the people center of right versus, radical left policies? That's what people really want. And I thought that was a really fair, really interesting question because they weren't necessarily wrong in terms of we need more aggressive policies that lean to the left, but that's how the question was phrased. And that's how I decided to answer it. If you're interested in going and watching that, you can go to our TikTok at New Digital Now and watch it. It's our pinned video. It's 10 minutes long, just warning you. And I don't talk about everything in there, but I'm more than happy to talk about more. It's my bread and butter. But people like hearing about extremes and seeing extremes because when you have an extreme put in front of you, you either like it or you don't. And people right now are having a lot of decision paralysis about because there's so many things going around. There's literally like literal shit flying through the air right now. So many things. And so if you have something extreme put in front of you, is it right or is it wrong? Is it yes or is it no? But when you have things in the middle with nuance, that's too much for people to think about right now. And I don't blame them. I really, really don't. But that's why people like us are here to try and help explain some of those nuances and give you some basic insight on whether you should choose yes or no for the extreme.
Yeah. Yeah. And back to the Pod Bros for a second, too, because they really have enabled so much of this from Graham Plattner and the Nazi tattoo, which, lest anyone forget, the Nazi tattoo was first revealed on an episode of Pod Save America in a dance video that was an Oppo dump he released of himself. So the Pod Bros dropped the Nazi tattoo for clicks. And then had him back on. Seems to be a theme with these guys. And I saw something recently on Threads that made me realize just how long they've been doing damage to our ecosystem. And you'll be hearing a lot more about this from us in the next 15 days, because April 30th is the 15-year anniversary of the Obama White House Correspondents' Dinner speech that basically dared Donald Trump to run for president. And I saw on Threads a hypothetical where a time traveler shows up in the White House comms office. I mean, probably about this time 15 years ago, April 2011, as they're polishing the jokes. Time traveler's like, "Hey guys, what you working on?" They're like, "Oh, we're working on a roast of this businessman for the Correspondents' Dinner. You probably don't know the guy anymore. He's irrelevant." And the time traveler was like, "No, whatever you do, you cannot write these jokes. He will take them seriously." And on the thread, the comms people came to the realization that, oh shit, we can't do this. But come to think of it, everyone in that office is now on Pod Save America and are now profiting from the ecosystem that they kind of created. And I truly believe, and I would love someone to ask them this to their faces, and hope this goes viral so somebody does, and like, share, save, and comment on this so that they will see it, and make sure to tag any one of the pod bros in it. I want to ask them, if you knew Donald Trump was actually going to run for president off those jokes and there was a chance he could win, would you still write them? And I mean, I like to think that if you told them that he would have won, that they would say, no, we wouldn't have done it. But I honestly
don't know.
I
I
don't
don't know
know.
what their answers would be.
Here's the thing, and especially if the hypothetical were posed not as he would have won, but he would become the nominee. They definitely wouldn't have done it then, because they would have wanted him to be the nominee for the same reason I did when I was in high school, because I thought there was no chance he could win. But I mean, I was in high school. That's my excuse. They were working in the White House, so they should have fucking known better. Pardon my language.
Yep. It's props to them for going through with the bit for as long as they have and just, keep chugging along through it. But this is not the first time that we have called out Pod Save America and its members for choosing to continue to use old playbook tactics that no longer work and continue to cause harm. And this is not going to be the last time.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm just trying to replace them here and be holier than thou. Like, I got into politics on Pod Save America in Trump's first term when I was in college.
A lot of people did.
I listened to every episode. I mean, I joined the premium subscription. I canceled my subscription when I saw that Hasan Piker episode because that was my last straw. But I say this as a former listener. Do better, guys.
I don't have a whole lot to add to that.
No.
I don't have a whole lot to add to that.
Yeah, no, but it's just emblematic of the way bro culture has seeped into politics. And I mean, Gavin Newsom's trying to emulate it. And I mean,
be careful what you wish for. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, and it's also like, it's not macho to replicate guys who are promoting gambling addictions on sports podcasts. We're mistaking what macho is. And we can connect, and Democrats should connect with interests that are traditionally masculine, because, I mean, for all the talk we've had about bro culture, the digital and field departments of campaigns are very female and queer dominated, and it's led to a lot of criticism that Democrats don't engage men. And it seems like the answer to that has now been to enable the worst of the worst men instead of finding ways we can be better. I mean, looking at
I have a point on that with field and digital being dominated by everyone but men. It's because men don't want to do that work.
That's very true.
Like, the men are not willing to sit and look through the data and create content and do graphic design. The men don't want to do the outreach and have to talk to people and listen to what they have to say and, be persuasive or turn people out. They don't want to do that work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the trad wife culture before and how that's coming back. There's also, you can't have trad wife come back without having, trad husband, I guess, also come back at the same time. There's people perpetuating that narrative, the trad wife narrative. Guess what? It's men. It's men
Yeah.
doing that. And a lot
By
of
the way,
men feel they don't have to, or they shouldn't have to do the physical grunt work of things, so they let women do it.
a lot of them too think they don't have to do any work. They think they're going to strike it rich either gambling or selling an AI course or doing any number of online Ponzi schemes and get rich quick schemes. And I want to go back to and actually end this episode on the gambling and the way it's seeping into every part of our ecosystem, from I'm pretty sure Trump staffers are insider trading on Kalshi and Polymarket, to the fact that you can't watch a baseball game anymore without hearing the money line from the announcer. And I'm not even talking about a gambling ad. I'm talking about them telling you the odds of what's going to happen before the pitch. And it's like, I miss when Vin Scully told you a story about the batter's hometown as you waited to see what's going to happen. And I'm not saying we have to ban gambling altogether, but we should absolutely be regulating it, and we should not be forcing it onto other parts of our society.
Gambling shouldn't be the story of baseball. I go to a baseball game. I know that you and I care about baseball in different ways, but as a casual consumer of it, I like to go to a baseball game, get a beer and a hot dog, and have fun and sit and watch. But I don't want to hear ads while, like things are happening. I like hearing the stories about, like you said, like whatever player's up to bat. I like hearing about their stories. I don't want to hear about, 53% of people guess this batter's going to hit a home run on Kalshi. Get ready to win big. I don't fucking care about that.
Yeah. And if you're going to advertise, sell me a hot dog or a beer. Seriously.
Go get another. You don't have to ask me twice.
Yeah, God, no, I saw an ad, and I think it was from last year, but it really made me sick. And I bring this up because today is Jackie Robinson Day, which, for anyone who doesn't know, honors when Jackie Robinson broke the Major League Baseball color barrier. And everyone wears the number 42. They do pregame ceremonies. As a lifelong Dodger fan, I always take pride in it because it was our team that broke the color barrier, and stop hating on the Dodgers. But I saw an ad from last year that apparently some betting app had a 42% parlay bonus in honor of Jackie Robinson Day. And it, I don't know, just kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, I literally, I saw a video earlier today of a content creator. And I think this is a great way to kind of put this together, is that most white people who are becoming leftists started with anti-capitalism versus anti-racism. And when you become a leftist, or you start, working towards progressive policies, it should start with anti-racism and lead into anti-capitalism.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's a great way to put that into a nutshell.
I think you've got more of a both and situation, and what it really comes down to is people's ability to hold multiple complex ideas at one time, which seems to be lacking. And I think the stat that really puts a finer point on that, and just to leave this off on a note of how much work we all have to do, I saw somewhere that apparently a higher percentage of American men got into gambling debt in the last year than read a book in the last year.
That doesn't surprise me one bit. That does not surprise me one single bit.
It doesn't surprise me, but it just is one of those things that I really didn't want to think about. And we have a major literacy crisis going on too. And I don't want to sound elitist, because on the contrary, I believe that literacy should be accessible to everyone. And I would actually argue that illiteracy is elitist, because the reason illiteracy exists is because the elites kept the books from the masses throughout most of human history. I mean, from aristocratic tutors being the only ones teaching anything to, now Zuckerberg and Bezos keeping their own kids schooled offline while packaging everyone else's education into bite-sized bits, should tell you everything you need to know.
Yep. For our first New Digital Now book club, I recommend people read the Constitution. That's our first New Digital Now book club recommendation.
I was going to recommend Ready Player One, but we can get to that.
Both are great options. And even if you just want to read the newspaper that you steal off your neighbor's lawn, just read something, please.
As long as it's not Breitbart.
Yeah, not Breitbart. And more than just a headline, like open the
Yeah.
article and read it. I promise
Yeah.
they're not as long as you think. And also, even if it is, they're usually pretty interesting because there's some really, really good journalists out there and really, really good storytellers out there.
Yeah, and when you read good stuff, we would love to hear about it. We should make a New Digital Now book club channel in the Discord, which if you're not in the Discord yet, donate any amount to New Digital Now down below, and you will get a follow-up link to join the Discord where you can chat with other Democratic supporters like you who are just brainstorming about how we can fix things and commiserating about how it's all broken. And we would love to see you there. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And
Yeah, and you get to talk with us as well. We reply to every message because we believe it's important that you hear from us and I guess that we learn from you.
oh, yeah. And if you want to let us know what you think without donating, you can let us know in the comments. You can click the link down below to submit to the comments and Q&A page, which we may not be able to respond to every one of those because we've now had a couple 100,000 of them, which we're so grateful for, but we do read every single one and we make improvements. I want to take a moment to apologize and give a special shout out to somebody who asked us to change the light blue font color on all of our quotes in the landing pages because they were hard to see if you were visually impaired. I went through, I changed a lot of them. I clearly missed one because I was asked again and I found the one I missed and I went and changed it. I think I got all of them now, but if I didn't, please let me know, and I hope you see this.
Yes, please let us know. We will go change things. We want this to be talking about accessibility. We want this to be accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
If you have questions, someone emailed us asking if donations to New Digital Now are tax deductible. They are not.
No,
Today is tax
sad.
day, so by the time this comes out, it'll be past tax day. But most donations to most political campaigns, organizations, PACs, anything political, they are usually not tax deductible, even though we are a nonprofit. Not the right kind of nonprofit to be able to be tax deductible. So ask us anything. This is all powered by you. So we want to make sure that it works for you.
Oh, yeah, and we couldn't do this without you, and we are so grateful for you being here. We have so many exciting things down the line. Thank you for our patience with the candidate interview. It will be coming soon, along with our candidate certification program, our launch of a new program called Operation Swing State, which is going to be really awesome, and so many more things coming down the line to help Democrats win in the midterms. So we can't wait to keep you posted, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yep, we'll see you next time. Thank you.